graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
You know, I've been from one side of this fandom to the other. In all that time, I have seen a lot of things. Above all that, there is one thing I am absolutely certain of. I am the villain of this story. You know what time it is, Valhalla? Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Morning to Mischief. I'm your host, Stone Loki. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to Purple Valkyrie. Good morning to Mark the Infinitely Tired, and Chris Persia. The Bash Brother Wrenches are here, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to Adega Outlaw, the Doctor of Disaster and Destruction. Good morning, brother. Brightest day. Good morning. How are you doing, man? How is Dragon Con? How is that going, brother? I've been loving the coverage you've been doing. Loving it. Andrew Broadbent, good morning. Good morning to Snortus Poopus Cuber. Hello, how are you doing, Snort? Dave Bob, my brother from another mother. Good morning, Dave Bob. How are you doing? How are you all doing this morning? Arwen Avalon, the lady Arwen Avalon. Good morning, Arwen. How are you? How are you? Good morning. Retro Dicky. Hail, brother. Hail, Retro. Good morning. Good morning. Keely Chow. Roll Tide, Keely. Roll Tide. Good morning, brother. Go 13's Anime 101 is in the chat. Good morning. And of course, Psychodorf 9. How are you doing, brother? Good morning, Larry Shum. Good morning to each and every one of you. And a big good morning to my guest this morning, Pat S. How are you, brother?
Doing good. I got a lot of shows to catch up on. Now that I have the internet again. Got the internet back about 3:00 yesterday.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. Have you gotten power back?
I have not gotten power back yet.
You've got internet back, but you don't have power back yet. Really?
Which is really weird because as incompetent as Entergy is, and Entergy's our energy company here, Cox Cable is by far much more incompetent. Oh. So the fact that I have internet back is kind of sort of an amazing thing. So yeah, we plugged the router and the generator, man. It's up and running. So which is amazing. Kind of funny. There's parts around me that do. I have we'll talk a little bit about this in a second, obviously, but I'm in a part of New Orleans called Algiers. And I am probably in the most middle class neighborhood, which is primarily where I've spent 90% of my life is in houses in this neighborhood. So of course all the nouveau riche and anything that ends in timbers, right? So the Park Timbers, Tall Timbers people, the English Turn, which is where all the NBA players and Saints players live. And of course the famous Algiers Point. All those nouveau riche people have their power already. They got theirs back like Friday, Saturday. I think the Port Point still has some power out, um, but some of them got that back as early as late as Tuesday. So they're doing good. And then there's other little places that have power, and then there's I guess about 40% of us that still don't. And more so, of course, the city, of course, and of course the poor people down in like Homa, Thibodeau, and all that. They're going to be without for weeks and weeks and weeks.
That's insane. It's just insane. Was the damage that bad?
Yes, the damage was that bad. I will tell you this: we got from the news what I pretty much expected from the news, which was lies, overestimations, playing it up. They there's a famous thing. I think I taped it, Loki, on Hulu, where this lady walks out. She's with WDSU, which is one of the better, believe it or not, one of the better local news stations. A little bit more honest. Some good people. I actually went to school with some people that work there that write post, and actually one of the people on TV. But even they were out with the wind at the lakefront is really, really getting bad, and the lady's like leaning into the window, walking. And one of the infamous little things that happens whenever they play these things up, right, is there's like a group of guys who are obviously intoxicated, and they're in the background, and they're just standing there playing around and talking and handing each other cigarettes back and forth while she's leaning into the wind and acting like she's in 150-mile-an-hour wind. One was probably more like about 60, 70-mile-an-hour wind, which is still fast, which could still be dangerous. I wouldn't want to get hit with a tree branch at 70 miles an hour. That would hurt a lot and maybe even knock you out, depending on where it hits you. But was that overplaying? But no, there was. As a matter of fact, I guess we could get into the thick of it. And before I tell the whole story, I actually have some house damage. I live in what we call an off the ground house here, and the house itself um, got a lot of wind underneath it, and I actually hurt my ankle the day before um, the infamous Mexican Ironman made his heroic run, and I'm actually in a walking cast as we speak because my floor has buckled up, where we think some of the joists is either shifted, and it looks like we have some structural damage on the house, and we don't know how bad it is yet. It could be as simple as basically jacking up one little end of it where my room is, because I do have a corner room. Or it could be they come in and go, yeah, we have to tear your house down. We just don't know yet. And it's going to be weeks and weeks before we find out, because there's no just getting a person out to come look at it right now, because those persons are doing 50 different things right now. No more than I could get a tree cut right now or have somebody come and patch the roof for me. Fortunately, we're capable of doing those things ourselves, because people who patch roofs and cut down trees are going to be very busy for the next few weeks.
That's crazy.
It is. It is.
And this
So,
is the status quo. This is what happens when something like this happens.
yes, it is. It's called a hurricane in South Louisiana, and it basically will have the same effect. Depending on, you get different effects for different things, right? Normally, whatever, I don't personally freak out about this, because being in Algiers, we're the second oldest neighborhood, kind of like how the French Quarter doesn't flood. We don't flood because they kind of 340 years ago, when they founded this area, they founded the highest point. So on both sides of the river, if you ever see a movie about New Orleans and somebody's standing, you see the two bridges in the background, and you look across the river, and that's the city, and maybe you can see the Superdome in the background and everything. That's Algiers. That's where I am. And actually, most of those take place on what's called Algiers Point, and that's like a very nice, kind of famous neighborhood and everything. So that's the side I'm on. So we're very high up. I don't sweat water generally. If the saying goes, if Algiers and the French Quarter floods, it's time to just move everybody to Arkansas, because the city's gone. It's basically Atlantis at that point. It's not going to come back, because that's how high off the ground we are. So I don't ever sweat the rain. Other people do a lot, and I don't blame them, because it can flood with just 2 inches of rain here easily. And then, of course, you have the wind, which is what affected us this time. We had gusts probably up to 100 miles an hour where I am. Sustained winds was between 50 and 60. So all we could figure is a good gust kind of maybe lifted us and dropped us. We have some neighbors, like our roof's in really good shape because we just put a 30-year roof on 2 years ago. But we have neighbors across the street. My nephews are some good boys between 16 and 21 actually grabbed the tarp that we had and went and put it on the roof of the neighbor across the street from us because we knew there'd be more rain coming, and she was freaking out because her entire roof's gone. I like there's no shingles on it. It's the weirdest thing. The wood and all underneath still is. So we must have had some real good gust here. And there were obviously big power lines down and big, huge oak trees down and things like that in the area. So we did get some pretty good wind. And I think that with a lot of people, that's the scariest thing. We didn't have anybody's house blow over or anything like that. Or, we've lost a couple lives. We certainly lost more people in the aftermath. As a matter of fact, two gentlemen who were fixing power lines on the west bank of New Orleans, more in Jefferson Parish. We have parishes in Louisiana. We don't have counties, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
They
really
actually.
quick, DJ Ronnie G asked the figure. I had that figure, and I'm pretty sure it's like the deep dive.
It is. It's Deep Six, dude. He
Yeah,
came
it's
with
Deep Six.
he came with the most ridiculous vehicle ever for GI Joe, which was you laid backwards in, like flat on your back, and it was a submarine that also flew up in the sky, right? So it was
Yep.
a jet plane and a submarine. And your dad was in the Navy; they had all kinds of stuff like that, right? Isn't that what your
Yeah.
father flew?
Oh
A
yeah. Oh
flying
yeah. It was
submarine?
this
Yeah, those are really
flying
nice.
submarine.
The logistics
Absolutely.
behind that alone are crazy. We could have used some of those in New Orleans,
I don't
but
know why I
I
thought
think
his name was Deep Dive. Obviously, it was Deep Six.
it's Deep Six, which is a great
Yeah.
name when you think of it, really, because Deep Six means a few things, right? But yeah, he was a deep sea diver. That's a pressure sea he's
Yep.
in. Absolutely. So, Loki, the question I get the most, and I guess you probably want to ask me, is this, and I'm sure. Um, and let me give a quick shout out to Mark, the infinitely tired, because Mark, when I first started freaking out, and I said, "Look, we got to stay in everything." I got a hold of Mark, and I said, "Mark, I said, is there any generators in Mobile, in the Alabama area? I know you know people and the trucking business and stuff and everything. Is there any place I can go rent one, or does anybody have one for loan or something like that?" Because our stupid generator wasn't starting down here. So Mark gave me a couple of leads and everything. And then about 24 hours later, I get this DM from Mark where it's like, "Pat, I have a bad feeling about this. This is like going to be worse than Katrina. You man, you guys got to get out of there." As he's saying this to me, right? We basically have the old generator back up and running, and we're like, putting canned goods on the shelf. And there's my brother sitting there, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, "Yeah, we ain't going anywhere." But thanks, Mark. I really appreciate that. I'm not mad at
Was
Mark.
it? Was it?
I say that jokingly because he really he had a premonition. He had a bad feeling, and he wasn't wrong. But at that point, there was no getting out. So the
Was it
question I get,
worse? Was it
was it worse
worse?
than what? Was it
Was it
worse
worse than
today?
Katrina? Yeah. Was it worse this time
Oh, was it
around for you
worse than
guys than
Katrina?
Katrina?
No. I have to be honest. It was. Now I can tell you this: it was more of a direct hit than Katrina was. But Katrina, look, everybody's like, Katrina wasn't a 5 when it hit New Orleans. Like, don't give me that crap. It doesn't matter if Katrina was a 5 or not. The way that it hit the city, because everything is directional, right? It depends on what direction it comes in. The way Katrina hit us, the way it affected the infrastructure. I mean, I don't know how anybody could say that this was worse than Katrina because thousands of people didn't die in New Orleans. So that alone right there, as much as I love the city and historical sites and everything, you could tear down the Superdome and the cathedral, and I'd trade that for 100 people's lives, for goodness sake. So no, nothing is bad as Katrina. Nothing will ever be as, maybe the hurricane that hit Galveston 130 years ago was worse than Katrina. But and that was storm surge, which is another thing you got to worry about. But no, it wasn't. Was it more of a direct hit? Was it more of a wind event in New Orleans? Absolutely. Like, it's funny because you could say that the power wasn't affected as bad in New Orleans with Katrina as this one, but we'll never really know because you know why? Nobody was here to turn the power on. I mean, where I was, we hardly got affected by Katrina at all in Algiers. But I can tell you this: I couldn't turn my lights on for 2 weeks, but it wasn't because the power was out and all those power lines were damaged and everything. They just didn't have anybody to come turn the power lines on. I was kind of able to sneak back in New Orleans, but by the time people were allowed to be back in, yeah, we had power and everything. So it wasn't bad on that front, but no, nothing's ever gonna. I don't think anything in my lifetime's ever, or even my nephew's lifetime, is good. Katrina is about as bad as you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. So, do you want to know why I didn't leave? Because
Oh,
that's a story.
please,
So,
please tell us. I know
dude, you're good.
Mexican Ironman's going to be here at some point this morning, but
He is.
please,
He's going to make a diva entrance and everything, and we'll
yes.
have to stop and applaud, which is great. I think we should. By the way, Loki, dude, Purple will tell you. Purple was like the first person to put me on. I just go and go and go, brother. So if you need to, you got to just rein me in, man. I'm terrible. I have no discipline when it comes to this stuff. So if you see a good question or something, just go, hey, Pat, hold on a second. But no,
Gotcha.
the reason we didn't leave, and let me tell you this: anybody who lives in South Louisiana, Mississippi, the Panhandle, if you can leave, and they're kind of saying, maybe it's a good idea, you should leave. You should always leave. We left. We left during Katrina. We didn't play around. The reason we didn't leave this time is because, very simply, my brother, when I say he was in treatment, you guys all know my brother's sick, or many of you do. He's got cancer. He does not have a cancer that is going to kill him, probably, certainly not in the next few years or anything like that. But when I tell you he's in treatment, the day that we found out about this, he was just going in to start only his third round of chemo. And that Friday, when everybody's freaking out and everybody's leaving and all that, until 3 o'clock that afternoon, he was walking around with an infusion pump, still getting his chemotherapy. So there was no leaving. There really wasn't. He couldn't leave with the infusion pump and a port in his body. And they assured us he gets this treatment at West Jefferson Hospital, that West Jefferson would be up and running before before the fourth treatment, which it was. It's this week. And they were up and running. They had a generator and they had patients throughout the whole storm and everything. And that was the real reason we didn't leave. We just said, you know what? And not only that, but with this one too, there just wasn't a lot of time. There just wasn't a lot of time. You know, you had to find a hotel. There's 7 of us. My brother's wife, about 11 years ago, said, I don't feel like being a wife and mother anymore. So I'm going to go move and I'll see you guys later, And he took off, and my brother called me up with, a 4-year-old in his arms and, another one, and said, dude, you've got to come help me for a little while. And I said, I will come and help you for a year. And we've been living together for 11 years. And I'm basically 4 boys' mother, 4 adolescent boys' mom. And that's what happened. So we've been together. And then my mom, when my dad passed away, moved in with us. So I also had an 80-year-old with me that we were having to deal with. And that's the main reason why we didn't leave, because it's smart to leave. You should leave.
Yeah, I've been in that spot before where you're like, do I leave? Obviously, growing up in Houston, we don't get as many hurricanes as you, but when it's sitting in the Gulf and it's like, oh yeah, it's gonna hit you. Yeah, you're ready, and you either stay or go. 99% of the time, I stayed. The one that I left was right after Katrina. The one that hit Houston right after Katrina, and they were saying it was going to land as a Category 5. Obviously, it didn't land as Category 5. It stalled out right before it got here, and I was pissed because I went to Dallas.
Yeah, I've been to Dallas. I'd have been pissed too. I don't know why you go to Dallas unless to see a baseball game.
Yeah. Well, going to see the oh my God, I can't think of the Rangers. Going to see the Rangers isn't a bad time. You enjoy.
No, that's what I was saying. I love that. That stadium was awesome, and I actually went there one time when they were doing a big thing for Nolan Ryan, and he actually like waved at me and went, "Hey man," which was
I
pretty
met
cool.
him when I met him when I was a kid. He came to our school, my
Yeah.
elementary school, and brought like baseball cleats and all kinds of weird
Oh,
stuff.
dude, he's like, isn't he the nicest guy in the world? He really
He
is.
is. He is. He really is. He's not like he doesn't have his head up his ass or anything. He's not like one of
Right.
those I'm a star baseball
Right.
players. No, he's just like, how y'all
No.
doing? Let's talk about ball. So
You know who
yeah.
else is like that too? And don't tell him this, but Mexican Iron Man and I were joking around. Do you know who oh gosh, I keep mixing up with his brother, Will Clark. Do you know who that is? The baseball player? Clark.
No.
He is from New Orleans. He played for Jesuit High School, which is like the premier boys high school in New Orleans, and Ole Miss and everything. And then he went to go play, and he was very famous. He was actually pitching the day of the earthquake in San and Frisco, right, for the Giants and everything. So he was a Giant for a lot of years, and he's just like other than Mel Ott, he is the premier baseball player ever from New Orleans. And Mike and I joke around that I know his family, I know his brother. His brother and I went to school together at a different school, and I said, for Christmas I'm going to get Paulie a signed Giants baseball and have it sent to him.
Yeah.
And
Oh
if you
God,
guys
he's
know
gonna
anything,
love that.
yeah, if you guys know anything about baseball, Dodgers fans we're not real big fans of Giants too. It's not like, oh, they're from
No.
our state, so I'm going to root for them. They hate each other. So I think that would be funny. So yeah, if you see Paulie, don't tell him I said that.
Really quick, I've got a
Yes.
$20 super chat from Stephen Glenn. Thank you so very much, father of Nicholas Glenn, Stephen Glenn. And he says, got my new Red Dragon on black Mornings of Mischief coffee mug. Cool looking, solid with awesome design. Thank you, brother. Thank you so very much for ordering that. 8 months in the shop to fix the damage on our van from a recent hurricane. Rode it out 20th floor and category 2. Skull, thank you so very much, Stephen Gillen, for keeping the home fires burning bright here in Valhalla. And we're going to give you a skull, brother. Skull!
Oh.
A dollar? I've never seen a dollar. Nobody's got a dollar. Let us see the dollar. There it is. It's beautiful. Take your hat off, boy. That's a dollar bill.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stephen Glenn. And Mexican Iron Man with the $4.99 super chat. The roofing guys are here. Be over in a few. All right, we're ready for you, brother. We are absolutely ready for you. Thank you for that. You didn't have to send in the super chat, Mike. I would have read it regardless. You know that.
That's funny. Yeah, we'll see you when you get here. So, Luke, any questions? I guess is the real thing. I mean, I'm kind of an open book. I want to say the good story for when the man's done with his roofing people, but
what was it like while it was going on? We'll talk about after when Mike gets
okay.
here. But what was it like while it was going on?
The anticipation's the worst, probably. You get excuse me for 1 second. Had to hit the cough button there. Because it's hot as hell in here because I had to turn my fan off. Because if I didn't, you guys would hear this the whole time I'm talking to Loki. The anticipation's the worst. It really is. It's worse than the storm. Because you start going, did I do the right thing? Did I do this? I will tell you one thing before Iron Man gets on and he can address this himself, but Mike and I are both practicing Roman Catholics. And if you are, great. If you're not, don't hold it against us. It's just how we were raised. But I find a lot of comfort in that. And at one point, I talked to him and 2 other people, including my sister and a guy I'd been friends with probably for about 35 years. And I said, listen, I don't think this is going to happen, but I'm going to send you guys a text. And if for some reason I don't make it through this is what I want. And I said, this is how I want my mass to be said. And I want to be cremated and I want to be mixed with the bones of my ancestors, and we have a family crypt that's about 160 years old in a really old cemetery in New Orleans. And no matter where I find myself later on in life, that's where I want my bones to rest. Um, and I'll let Mike tell you what his response was, but it was what you would expect, which was at first very jokey, then very serious, and then comforting, and then very jokey again. Um, with Mike, whenever he's nervous, it always ends up with him hitting on Purple Valkyrie.
It
So he's
does. It
doing
does.
it.
It's amazing how that happens. It is. It is absolutely amazing how no matter what is going on, it ends up with Mike hitting on Purple Valkyrie. Yes.
I'm like, Mike, Purple Valkyrie's, we're on the phone, dude. She's not anywhere around. And that's always weird too, right? Does he ever get serious with you about that with Purple Valkyrie? He asked me, he's like, do you think Purple Valkyrie likes Mexicans? I'm like, Mike, Purple Valkyrie probably knows as many Mexicans as I know Argentinians, dude. She lives in England. I think she probably likes you. I mean, she seems to laugh whenever you say stuff. It's like,
She's laughing now.
I think you need to fly to England, but he doesn't want to fly to England because then he'd know for sure. But of course, I tried to dissuade him because I like Purple Valkyrie and she's my friend. And Mike's an agent of chaos, but chaotic good, Loki. If you ever did the chart,
we're all of us. Believe it or not, all of us in Valhalla, well, almost all of us are chaotic in nature. So chaos has a lot to do with it. Chaos always has something to do with it, especially with everybody in Valhalla. So it's a chaos thing. It's just, we're good chaos, but it's still a chaos thing.
Ironman's still in chat.
Yeah, I'm hearing you guys. I have speakers. I hear you. Yeah, we know.
If you want to defend yourself, tell the roofing guys to go walk Bambino, and you can hop on at any time. But the anticipation's the worst. When the storm comes itself, you get nervous because, like I said, the weather people were a little misleading. They make you look, dude. When you're dealing with 130 mile an hour winds, that's not a joke. That's not something you should be telling old. There's old people and little kids watching the news too, and you should know because this is the thing. And I was smart enough to do this, and I'm not always the smartest guy in the room. But while they're talking, and I'm watching this stuff because I got it, we still have internet on the phone. We had internet pretty much throughout the whole storm until like the next morning. And then it's like, the internet's out. So we actually had a television on with an antenna, and I had my tablet on with another channel, and I would pause and mute. But then I started going on like the normal weather sites you might go check, like WeatherBug and weather.com and stuff. And even the iPhone app with the weather app. Do you have an iPhone? You know what I'm talking about? That blue background kind of.
Yes.
And you look at what the winds are, and it's like they're saying there's 70 mile an hour winds and their gusts of up to 120. And I'm looking and it says 35 miles an hour. And I look out the window and the tree's swaying. I mean, it's moving, but it ain't bending over. It's a willow tree, so it's going to move. And I'm like, I think you guys are buffaloing us because I'm looking at where I live. If you look at Gretna and Belchase, I could pretty much detect what's going on with the weather. It's almost as good as having a station. A lot of people don't know this, but most of the weather you get when they report, and you're like, why do they have like this thing 20 miles out of the city? It's generally because it's one of two things. It's either a private airport, or as we have here in our little area, it's military airports. We have a joint base in Belchase that's primarily Air Force, but lots and lots of Navy guys, lots of Navy planes and stuff take off from there. And that's where the president lands a lot of times when he comes to New Orleans. So that weather station there is really, really good. So you can look at that and tell. And that made me feel a little bit better because it took me a second to figure out. But I'm like, man, this is just like everything else with the news. They're buffaloing us here. They're making this out to be. And then, of course, my friend tells me why later. I didn't even think of this. He's like, well, dude, it's going to be Peabody season soon. And do you know what Peabodys are, Loki?
Oh yeah, they're the television award. Yeah.
Yep. Mostly for local news and stories and things like that. And also, yeah, man, if you could have a good storm and a couple people die and you're without power, and you could show prisoners being brought on a bus to get them out of. You could probably win a Peabody. They'll probably give you one for that. So, unfortunately, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If anybody in the news wants to call me out, they know where to find me. I'm on Twitter. You can look me up and say I'm a liar, and then we'll see who could prove who wrong. But no, man, the storm itself wasn't as bad. The power went out at about 9 a.m. For me because the power always goes out early, and we made it through. The big thing you keep going is when's this going to be over? And like nobody's talking about that. Like when is the damn thing going to be in Baton Rouge? That's what we want to know. Not screw Baton Rouge, but it's kind of like once it's in Baton Rouge, you're only getting outer bands
Hey,
at that
Pat,
part.
something. God damn it!
Welcome to Mexican Ironman.
Ha ha! Aha! The roofing guys are here fixing the roof. That's why I'm late. I heard you guys. I heard you. I heard that.
I'll tell you about using that damn button.
I heard you guys. I had the Bluetooth speaker on. I was outdoors and I was carrying around my Bluetooth speaker just in case there were any shenanigans or secrets disclosed. I heard that.
Huh.
I don't know why you would be surprised. I don't think knowing Loki and I know how you know me that we would ever A, pull any punches or B, hide anything. So
Well, I don't think I'm mad at you. I think I'm like, where was the part where Loki says, "No, Pat, hold on, no, Pat, you're wrong. Mike doesn't always hit on Purple Valkyrie. That's an inaccurate assessment, Pat."
That's not an inaccurate assessment. That is an
Okay, you know what?
accurate assessment.
Okay, you know what? I'm not done saying the part of what you should have said versus what you did say. Okay, or you could have said, well, we could have lied. You could have said, "Purple hits on Mexican Ironman." No one would have believed that one. That one, no. That one.
I will take up for you, Mike. Sometimes she's then also start hitting on every female or anybody you might even think could be female on the chat. That does happen sometimes.
What?
Mm-hmm. Oh no! Oh yeah! Oh no! Oh yeah!
And there's there's that uncomfortable Mexican Ironman laugh. And Purple, how are you in the chat today? Oh wait, I just proved myself right or wrong.
A tortilla wrapped around a subwoofer with 2 D-cell batteries isn't a Bluetooth speaker, Mexican Ironman.
Hey. How did he know what I had for breakfast? How did you know I had a tortilla for breakfast?
Mark's sharp. Mark's been holding on to that for 35
When do
minutes.
you when do you not have a tortilla for breakfast?
I don't eat tortillas that often, frankly. I mean, I know I joke around about tacos and left and right, but I probably only, Jesus, I really don't eat them that. You can think this is funny, but in addition to being allergic to guacamole, I really don't like tortillas that much. Like, I just think they're bland and they don't taste like anything.
You know what I really like?
Now
there's a place here that makes homemade tortillas, and they make this butter tortilla, and you get that and some eggs and bacon. Oh my God, you're in heaven.
It tastes like butter. Good. You guys make everything with butter in Texas.
All right, so let's get to it, right? Because this is what really everybody's here for. The heroic story of Mexican Ironman. This is the point where you hit the record button on your tape recorders, gang. Because
wait, I was here for the new Pat S VIP limited edition male thong collection sale.
Oof. Yes.
And there's dead silence, and the entire crowd turns on me, and everybody goes.
You're getting better with your soundboard.
You like that? After hosting the show last week for you, I actually sat down. I'm like, oh, I should probably label all the buttons like Loki has his buttons labeled. So I sat down for 2 hours and I went through each sound effect, and now I know what they are. Like, for example, when I'm a bad boy and Loki wants to beat me up in the back room. All right, I'll shut up now. Go ahead, Pat. I'm going to mute myself. Okay, go.
By the way, this is the point where we get to bust Loki's balls a little bit because I thought this was pretty funny. And this, Loki, now you have to understand I'm completely out of communicado, right? I'm only able to talk to people on the phone. My mobile service went down, so I'm not getting any internet. I can barely text people sometimes. Is Retro Dicky in chat, by the way?
He is. He is.
I want to thank Retro Dicky because, of course, Retro's in England. So normally I would get up at like 3 a.m. after the power went out because I could get a little bit of service, I guess, because there weren't a lot of people on. And man, oh man, I would make a tweet and Retro Dicky would like answer within like 30 seconds. So Retro Dicky was really my outside contact to the world a lot of times when I was laying in here in the dark at 3 a.m. because I guess he was up already, and like many people, he would send me back messages and stuff. So I just a special shout out to everybody, but definitely him with that, because whenever I see his name now, that to me that'll always be synonymous as the voice in the night, right? The person I could count on. I could always go, hey, Retro Dicky, you out there, and know that he's probably sitting in the UK someplace drinking a cup of tea, going, man, oh man, what's going on with those people in Louisiana? Why don't they move? Everybody should go move in Montana. There's only like 20 people there, So.
Yeah, but it's hot. It's hot. It's damn hot.
It's hot here too, but then it gets real, real cold. And now that I'm old, I can't take the cold anymore either, man. So I guess I'm just done. But the one thing that I did get that was a real reach out, and the other constant that I had is Mexican Ironman. He was like on the phone with me before. I told you that little story, and then he was on the phone with me after. And then about Tuesday, when things were looking its most grim, I get a call from him, and he's like, dude, I thought he was going to tell me this because he kept saying, why don't you let me come get you? And you can come up to Hilton Head, and we'll get 2 other guys, and we'll live like the Golden Girls for the rest of our lives. And,
not that one. Not that one.
Well, let me tell you, your name came up, dude. You would have been Dorothy because you're the tall one and the leader. No. So you were going to come too, man. After you go old to Texas, we're all going to be in Hilton Head, and Mexican Ironman would be Blanche Dubois. So I don't know if that makes me. I guess I'm either Rose Nyland or the old lady. No, he says, dude, I'm bringing you supplies. I'm bringing you gas. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Dude, you live like 10 hours away from me, and that's 10 hours when all the interstates are open and everything and all. He's like, no, it's true. He's like, Loki has an earache, so I gotta have cover his shows. And he's telling me this, and I'm like, Loki has an earache. I said, do you mean like Loki's kid? Because dude, we don't know anything about you, right? We have no idea. You could have 15 kids running around. And I'm like, and he goes, no, Loki, he's got swimmer's ear. And I'm like, what is he, 10 years old? How'd you know you had an ear infection, Loki? Were you pulling out your ear, and somebody was like, come here, let me look at. But then I found out, and I guess this isn't a joke, that like it was like really bad, right? Like you thought the infection could go to your brain. So
it was bad enough. It was bad enough that when the emergency room doctor came in and was like, ear infection, huh? I'm like, just look at it. And she looked at it and she goes, okay, that's the black plague of ear infections. I've never seen anything like it. Oh, God. I was like, yeah, it's to the point, dude. It was to the point that I could feel it in my jaw and in my teeth. I could literally feel the pain from the ear down into my jaw and my teeth. Yeah, and my jaw was starting to swell.
I knew all this when it was happening in real time, but I didn't want to talk about it at all. So as much as I said was whatever he said to anyone on the air about going swimming and all that stuff. So
and then Loki, you had to fly too during that. That's not a good idea, man. But I mean, I couldn't tell you anything. I mean, you were already, like I said, I would watch some shows like at 3 a.m, and I would try to catch. So I saw a little bit of stuff going on and watch Iron Man run the show. But he wanted to come right away, but he had obligations with YouTube and his business and his fan. But in a weird way, and I don't think I ever told Mike this, but in a weird way, it was better. It was better he didn't come right away, because the funny thing is it really, and this is going to sound stupid to people, but you just have to be in the situation. It gave you something to look forward to. I can only compare it to when my dad would tell Marine Corps stories, and I am not comparing what I'm going through at all to somebody who's in war or serving our country. That not at all. But the closest I could come to it was my dad just talking about how you would have this dead time in the service, and you would just wait and wait and wait for something to happen. And there was the littlest thing to look forward to, like, oh man, we're going to get hot chow on Tuesday. You would just fixate on that. And that's kind of how this was. My nephews, because Mike was like, make a list and send it to me, and I'm going to start buying stuff. So my nephews would come in and they'd be like, do you think your friend could get this for us? And I'm like, I'll add it to the list. But they're good kids. Right, Mike? I mean, they didn't add a lot of crazies. They weren't like,
No,
we
it was
weren't,
all
we weren't,
essentials. I didn't get it.
yeah,
Video games, battery. I didn't get a Twitch wasn't on the, or Switch was. None of that. I mean,
yeah.
it was all
How
essentials.
many cheddar cheese combos or the muncho chips, or how much of that did you get?
You want to answer that, Pat, or me?
I don't think he got anything quite like
No,
that. He did get
I
some
didn't.
junk. He got a couple of junky things, but he mostly got stuff, and this is what we talked about, something that you could grab quick on the go for some carbohydrates so that you could get going, that you didn't have to cook. But a lot of it, no, it was really a lot of essential stuff. We didn't need it. We didn't need water. Like water was like like a guy in a Humvee, and this is not an exaggeration. I wish I would have filmed this. Drove up, have no idea what branch of the service he was from. I can only tell you this: he was not with the Marine Corps, because I would have recognized that outfit. But I think they were maybe Air National Guard, which would make a lot of sense because I'm real close to a Air National Guard base. They just came by and they were like, "Hey, you want some MREs and water?" And they just like came and put it on the porch. So like water was very, very, very plentiful. So I said,
Good.
Mike, do not load the car down with water. But the one thing he did bring that was a liquid, no beer, no tequila. I'm a teetotaler, so
Oh
yeah,
no.
I've been through that phase of my life. I don't do a lot of being, but he's now has me hooked on this stuff, and I probably shouldn't even tell everybody about this Ironman. But there's this blue, what is it called again, Mike? What's the blue Gatorade Zero? That stuff's delicious. I feel like a 10-year-old drinking that. That is the most. It doesn't taste like raspberry. You think it tastes like blue raspberry, but it's the most refreshing drink I've ever had. So he bought us a bunch of drinks, lots of canned goods, lots of stuff you could cook relatively easily. Ironically enough, in a weird way, you don't want to run your oven and stove, but our gas never went off. And as a matter of fact, one of the things we are going to invest in before the next hurricane season is a whole house generator. And because gas lines are plentiful in my part of the city, we're going to run it right to the natural gas line. So I don't think, hopefully, fingers crossed, this will happen to us again. Not to that extent. The natural gas could always go out, but there's also a diesel reserve that you can add to it. So we'll probably do that. But no, the lifeline that Mike threw.
I can
was
show you the
pretty
list
funny.
that he sent me.
Oh, that'd be great. Cool.
Bring it up on the screen.
Got it.
All right, so this is literally from my phone. I don't know what this was the night before. I think this was on Wednesday night because I went shopping Thursday and then I left Friday. I went shopping after the Thursday show that I did. So
the Little Debbie's just has a comment here. The Little Debbie hostess, any kind of snack cake or anything when you need carbohydrates, that's your go-to. Right?
Yeah, so he didn't get Twinkies or Little Debbie's. No, he got something more nutritious than that. But yeah, I mean, he put it on the list. But and so it's basically a lot of canned ravioli, a lot of canned goods, soap. But what wasn't on this list that I thought was interesting that he didn't have is that I bought a lot of paper stuff like paper plates, forks, knives, spoons, paper towels, toilet paper. I got a lot of paper goods. And I also took him an ice machine.
Nice.
Yeah, we were going to talk about the Mike. My mother has absolutely co-opted that ice machine. My mom, like I told you guys, when she got older after my father passed, she moved in with us. So of course she gets there's the ice machine. She gets the really nice master suite, right? Because she's a girl. She's the only girl in the house. but she has 2 closets, right? And one of her closets we basically have converted to like a little kitchenette for her. So now that ice machine sits in there. So if anybody wants ice, they have to go visit grandma and get their ice. But that thing
Well,
is
I'm glad because
amazing.
I worried about it. And here's the funny thing of how things work. I had just ordered this thing and opened it up out of the box, not like I don't know, Friday or Thursday before the hurricane hit. Like I had just bought this for myself. And I hadn't really used it at all. I had only tested it out once or twice. I mean, you can see it was sitting here on the counter. I didn't even have it plugged in regularly. And so when I delivered it, I was able to deliver like seal, in a box that it came in because I just opened it, not just the weekend before.
The ice stays cold, and even when it melts, it just gets made back into ice again because there's a little reservoir under the. It's like a little basket.
Yeah, and the reason I did this is because when you're in the heat, guys, and I mean, look, I've never experienced humidity like I have out here in South Carolina, and that's not even Louisiana humidity. I mean, when my power went out in South Carolina when we had a storm scare, and I didn't have power for like whatever it was, 18 hours. It was 18 hours of hell. And I have a brand newly constructed house with amazing insulation, and it was just hell. The hardest thing to find were these freaking gas canisters. These were hard as hell to find.
That's because everybody was buying them.
Dude, I on Thursday I spent 4.5, 5 hours just driving to different auto zones and auto stores, and Home Depot didn't have any, Lowe's didn't have any. And the prices were jacked. Each of these were like $28 each. The lowest price I found was $27.99, $26.99 for these.
It's crazy. Loki, did you cut grass when you were a kid? Remember when a gas can was like $2? I mean, I realize we're not in the 80s anymore, but for God's sakes, Mike's right. If you go on the Lowe's website, you're not going to find even a small container for less than about $14, $15.
No, you could get like
30 is the norm.
You could get a gas can at the gas station for like $2 or $3.
Yep.
I'm not that old. so I don't get it. You could get a gas can for a couple bucks at the gas station. It was never that bad.
Yeah, so he told me once he had water, I unloaded all the water I bought him. I had twice as much water in the truck, so I now have a crap load of water in the garage. But he said he had it, but it was good because then I was able to buy more stuff than he needed. Like I had room for actual stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. He also bought. This was a surprise. He didn't. This was one I wasn't expecting. Like the ice machine was a surprise. He found, and boy, oh boy, I'm going to take some pictures of that and put it on Twitter, guys, because it'd be a good thing for you to have just in normal life. But Mike, I don't even know what name brand that is. You're gonna have to tell everybody. But he found this emergency radio flashlight UPS charger that has a crank on it and everything and all. I mean, you've seen these before, but this is a pretty top quality one. Like this thing really will charge your phone, and it keeps a charge for like 12 hours, even if you're running the radio and the battery. And that thing's been a real lifesaver too, because you could plug it in while you're asleep, or you could crank it and you could have the radio on. And as you can imagine down here, the news stations and the radio stations are pretty much still just running 24-hour updates on people's lights. And, that's
here's the boys loading up.
That's them.
Oh, that's the blue Gatorade you're talking about?
Yep, that's it. There was actually a bunch of it, though. Mike bought big bottles and little bottles.
And these boxes is where all the canned goods were. So I took I wrapped these in plastic because my SUV smelled like a ton of gas, but the plastic helped it not. And then I put all the dry goods and potato chips and stuff in a lot of these canisters, these plastic ones. And then I used old boxes of different stuff, and that's where all the canned goods were. So I did all this because I knew they were coming with an open bed truck. And I didn't want stuff to fly around or move around a lot. So I figured by doing it this way, putting everything in boxes and stuff like that.
That's smart.
Yeah, so the only thing that wasn't sealed up were like the heavy stuff here, like the Gatorade. But yeah, this is the boys. The boys are so nice. They're so, Pat S, you only see one of them in this shot, but they were so polite. They were so nice.
They're good kids, man. I can't take anything away from them. They're all. They're nice boys. they all talk, it's funny, they all talk about joining the service, and of course one of them went to boot camp last like right as COVID was starting and everything. But they all had this ridiculously long hair. I'm like, you do got realize when you go into the service, they're gonna make you cut your hair. But I don't know if anybody caught in the background. We didn't want Mike to come in New Orleans because there was a curfew, and he was coming in at night, and you can't see anything because all the lights are out. And we wanted him. He was telling me like, I'm tired. I'm gonna just grab a hotel room. And I'm sitting here going, Mike, you're not just gonna grab a hotel room in Mobile or even drive up to Hattiesburg. There are no hotel rooms. All the New Orleans people are living there. So we decided that we could get gas ourselves. As a matter of fact, you could see some empty gas cans in the back of the truck. I said, look, we're going to drive up and meet you. We're going to meet you someplace in Mississippi, and we're looking. And we finally decided, I said, oh, this would be hysterical. Let's go. There's a Buc-ee's that opened a year or two. I don't even know. It's pretty new. I said, Mike's never been to that before. And on the show, Loki, you've talked about Buc-ee's before.
Buc-ee's,
so I said,
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. Let's have him meet there. And I'm going to skip a little bit ahead of the story. And the funniest thing that happened with the boys, and they were rolling on the ground. Now, keep in mind, too, this is after one of them called me just as the truck's being loaded, and they're like, hey, your friend Mike's here. You brought a lot of stuff. Mr. Mike has a girl dog. And I'm like, no, dude, that dog's a boy. And he goes, no, like a dog that a girl would have, like you'd put in a purse. They were talking about Bambino, which is funny because in my family we've all had big like German shepherds and collies and stuff and all. But no, Mike, they really like Bambino, and I told them, which I will not tell on Loki's channel. That is a Mexican Ironman story, but how Mexican Ironman got Bambino, and that's a hero story too. But no, we decided to meet in Buc-ee's. Mike, is that in Alabama, right? Is that where Buc-ee's is? Like right along?
Yeah.
And that's where they met up. But no, Mike then, because this is the kind of cat he is, right? He slips the kids like an extra $50, and he goes into Buc-ee's. And when I tell you, I think Ryan has film of it. If he does, I will post it on Twitter for everybody. But when Mike walked into Buc-ee's, it was like probably the first time your mom and dad brought you to, if you grew up around one, a Lionel Play World or Toys R Us or stuff like that. They said he was like yelling in the store, like, "Oh my God, look at it!" And Mike, is this true? Like your arms were so full that you dropped two things and the boys came behind you and picked it up?
Oh yeah, I had so much beef jerky, dude. I still downstairs have like a whole I bought. Now I didn't use any of the money that some people said we did. I ended up. I'll tell you a story about the GoFundMe in a second, but I mean I had my own money separate from that money, and I was just like, yeah, okay. So you did tell them I did slip the boys, $50 cash. I didn't want you to tell anybody that, but I did do that, and just because I just wanted to, I didn't know what anybody's condition was, so I just I want to make sure they could load up the truck with gas. I want to make sure the boys had, because I saw them in there, so I'm like, okay, I don't want them spending any money because obviously they were buying stuff and for the ride back, and I'm like, okay, I don't want them spending their own money and stuff. But I walked into this joint, holy hellfire tarnation! There was an entire wall for Slurpees, an entire wall of beef jerky, an entire wall for different flavors of trail mix, an entire wall of pulled beef, brisket, pork, barbecue, amazingness. I shouted this out to Jeremy when I was driving back. He was on this live stream, I think on Sunday or whenever it was Saturday. I don't know when it was. Sunday, I guess, when I was driving back. Oh my God. It is a theme park for adult travelers. I have never seen such amazing things in my life. I've never been so excited to be in a truck stop. It was bright, and there were rides, and there were arcade games, and there was jerky, and there was yumminess, and barbecue, and you can't even describe it like, well, it sounds like a regular truck stop. No!
Not to take anything away from Buc-ee's, because Buc-ee's is its own animal. But if you're ever on I-45 and you're in Texas and you're in Centerville, you have to stop in Centerville because there is a place. Now, this is on both sides of the road. There's one on the left side and there's one on the right side.
Yes, sir.
And it's called Woody's. It's called Woody's Smokehouse. And let me tell you something. They have their own stuff like Buc-ee's. They have their own fudge. They have their own barbecue. They have their own cheeses. Anytime I go through Centerville, I have to get smoked cheddar and I have to get fudge. I have to get their Butterfinger fudge, their mint fudge, and their chocolate peanut butter fudge. Oh my god, yeah.
Well, you want to hear? Let me tell you this. Let me see what's this video. Oh, this is me inside Buc-ee's. Hold on, is my audio on?
No, I can't. We can't hear it if it is.
Okay, here's me walking into Buc-ee's. Just amazed. Oh, the glorious wall of beef jerky. Oh, all hail the glorious wall of beef jerky.
Oh no.
By
And
the
I'm
way,
just in what. Anyways,
the boys found out yesterday that Mike is better known as Mexican Iron Man, and they were all undone by me. They were like, "Why didn't you tell us his nickname was Mexican Iron Man?" I said, "I didn't tell you that before you went on the trip because I didn't want you walking around Buc-ee's in Alabama behind this nice golden brown man going, 'Hey, Mexican Iron Man, do you want some beef jerky? Hey, Mexican Iron Man.'" I said, "A bunch of little white Irish kids following this man around." I said, "They would have thought you were messing with him." I said, "Somebody would have got in trouble." But no, they were very, very taken aback by, as they call him now affectionately. I don't know if you know this or not, Mike, but they call you Uncle Mike now. And when I tell you this, and I mean this with all sincerity, and if you people know any Irish Catholic people in your life, you'll know that this is kind of how we roll. Mike has 4 friends for life. If no one takes care of him when he's old and gray and refuses to go to an old folks home, those boys will probably go up there and pick you up and bring you back to wherever they are at the time. So I hope you like New Orleans, because you might spend your twilight years here if you get sick or something, because
oh, bro, stop it!
that's just how they are, dude. That's just how
Stop
they
it!
are.
You're gonna make me emotional right now, and I'm not gonna cry this morning. I'm not gonna do it. So I do have a funny story to tell you, which is that I was so focused on getting to you, Pat, and getting to the family and getting to the meeting location.
Right.
Loki, I stopped looking at my freaking dashboard, and this is what. So I had filled up. Okay, I at some point I had a full tank of gas at some point, right? But do I have a picture of it? Let me see. Where is it? Okay, here's what happened before I got there. So I ran out of gas about 8 to 11 miles before the meeting spot. Like I made it 10 hours and 13 minutes or whatever it was.
But Mike, you didn't run out of gas, dude. There's like tons of gas right behind you.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh no, I'm out of gas. And I'm so focused on getting there. I'm like, how do I get the food and supplies there? I'm talking to myself, Mexican Iron Man, what are you gonna do? I don't know. We're out of gas. Why did you go get gas? I don't know. Wait, hold on. Wait.
I got bags in the back.
Wait. I got gas. I got gas yesterday.
That's
wait a minute. I got enough gas. Wait, hold on. So I pull off. Mexican Iron Man. Once he realizes what's going on, he's like, whoa, hold on here. Wait, stop your thinking. Stop the car. So I pulled over, and Loki, this may come as a shock to your listeners. I have to admit something. Well, you're probably going to be shocked at this one. Okay. Well, unbelievably, Mexican Iron Man has not led, definitely in his adult life, has not had a life of what we will call struggle so much. This may come as a shock to you, but I actually didn't know how to refuel my car with a gas can. So I go to the back, I grab one of the canisters, take the plastic off, open it up. It's got the little nozzle thingies, the little nozzle thingies. Yeah. These things.
Yep.
Well, unbelievably, apparently, these things, you're supposed to angle it towards the gas tank.
Yes.
Of the car.
Yes.
Well, Mexican Iron Man thought it went the other way. Like somehow you turn it on its head, on its side, and went the other way against gravity.
No.
So I ended up getting about a gallon of gas on myself.
Oh no!
And none of the kids.
No! Oh
And I did manage to
no!
get about 1 gallon. I struggled, and I managed to get 1 gallon into my car so I could keep going and make it to Buc-ee's. But yeah, the first gallon went on me. So sorry, Pat. I know one of these only had 3 gallons and not 5, but yeah. So
Well,
unbelievably, Mexican Ironman on his heroic victory trip didn't actually know how to put gas in his own car.
Well, at 100% explains why you're walking around Buc-ee's without a shirt on and shower shoes.
I was trying to be like I was from Louisiana, like everybody else.
Now that's you're thinking of rural Mississippi, sir. That's a little bit to the east of me.
Okay, whatever. You know how many accents I heard on the way over there?
Look,
So
this is
Mark
where we get
Ambly
serious.
tired with a $4.99 super chat. Mexican Ironman isn't Mexican at all. Can't refuel a car with a gas tank. Shit. And Mark asks as well, who was your eye in the sky the whole trip down?
Oh, that was Mark. Mark was so good to me. So check this out. So I talked to Mark probably Mark, how many times? 2 or 3 times at least via text or phone calling. So Mark, I take off from South Carolina and he's on the phone with me. He's like, which way you going? And I could tell he was already disappointed with my stupid decision making. He's like, which way you going? And I'm like, I'm going down, because I'm thinking smart. I'm going down, I'm all proud. I'm on the speakerphone. I'm going down, like talking like a trucker. We got a great big convoy. I'm like, I'm in trucker mode. I'm going down the 95, fixing to find the Interstate 10, and I'm on my way. And he's like, why didn't you go through Atlanta and then come down through Alabama? And I'm like, I don't know. Why would that be a good idea? And he says, well, Mike, you're probably going to get there faster if you go the other way. I'm like, no, I checked on Waze, and Waze says this is a shorter route. He's like, Mike, everybody's on the 10. You're crazy. You're going to get stuck. And he says, get whatever you do when you get to Jacksonville, go around Jacksonville. Do not go through Jacksonville. And I was like, okay. And so there was a ton of construction in Jacksonville. Thank God he told me to take the side roads around it. I did get slowed, and he was right. I got slowed down in Jacksonville with the construction. I mean, it probably added at least an hour and a half to my trip, maybe 2. And he was right. I mean, Mark was absolutely correct and stuff. And then he told me where the traffic was congested, and he told me over by Florida. So what I did is I pulled over, and I did take a break. I walked Bambino. I had some food because I hadn't eaten all day. So I stayed and waited for about 35, 40 minutes, and the traffic did die down. There were so many people going both ways on the 10. I mean, the region was devastated. I saw, Alabama and Mississippi were tore up, at least on the 10 that I saw. There were trees everywhere. But yeah, Mark did a great job. Oh, yeah. And then of course he started worrying about me, and so did other people, because I dropped my phone in water right after I did the drop, and I was low-key. I was out of touch. How long was I out of touch, Pat? An hour, a day?
You son of a bitch. I'm sorry, look, I don't want to curse you. But I'm like, Mike, what are you doing? Why aren't you answering me? And I'm frantically texting, are you okay? And Loki, I have to say this. This is pretty funny. This is how I found out Mike was okay. I managed to, like I said, I would get spotty internet, so every once in a while I'd check in with a show and watch something. Fortunately, I'm worried about Mike, and this is what I hear. I get Echo Base Network on. It's like, hey, y'all, I don't know if I told y'all this or not, and this is Nick, right? Mexican Ironman and I met up, and we had Corona Ritas, and I'm going, you son of a bitch. I'm thinking he's drunk in a hotel up in, northern Alabama and stuff, and I didn't realize he had dropped his phone. I'm just thinking he's like, oh, man, I need a break from these people, but I was worried about you, dude, for 24 hours. It was completely incommunicado. And then somebody also told me, well, he did tweet something out. So I'm like, okay, I guess he's all right. But since we got a little serious there for a second, and it is past the top of the hour, it's time to do this one. So let's just get this out here. Mike had every intention of doing this completely without, I don't even know if he'd have told you, Loki, or even Purple Valkyrie to impress her, on the slide. He had every intention of doing this on the QT, but because so many people were asking and worried, and he was afraid somebody who didn't have the means was going to do it, he then very much let you guys in on the secret. He did not want to take money, because, as I'm sure you know, and not because Pat S is a great guy, but because of who Mike is and how much he does for a lot of people, he could have very easily have gone on. I mean, look, they love him. They love us on Midnight's Edge. He could have easily Echo Base Network, right? Your sister channel in a lot of ways. And Mike could have raised $10,000 and totally financed this trip and not spent a nickel out of his pocket. He didn't want to do that. And that's why some people are like, man, are you going to go on so-and-so's show, or a big show asked me to come on and talk about it? And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go. Maybe if Purple asked me something, I would tell her in the next couple of weeks and say something on her channel because she's part of the group. But this is 100% a Valhalla victory. And it's 100% a victory of Mexican Ironman intertwined in that. Because the only reason he included everybody was because he wanted everybody to feel a part of it. He didn't want everybody to feel like there's nothing I can do. So even his act of taking people's 10 and in some cases $100, and I appreciate it. If you're the anonymous person that gave $5 to Mike, to me, that's just as amazing as the guy who I don't even know that gave $100. And the names I do recognize, there's a lot of anonymouses out there. But he did that because he wanted everybody to be rallied around something and know that, hey, there's something we could do about this. Because he could have easily went on a bunch of big shows and raised a ton of money. But he didn't want to do that. And he even told me, he's like, don't you say a thing to anybody about that. I'm like, I'm not, dude. Well, I'm embarrassed by it. I won't say a word about it. But
it started with your Muslim uncle and Cardinal Sin. They were the first ones who wanted to donate, and Cardinal Sin actually put up a GoFundMe. He ended up taking it down because I told him I wanted to control it because I was the one making the trip. So Gil and I merged our efforts. God bless Cardinal Sin. God bless your Muslim uncle. Your Muslim uncle was literally saying, people care about Pat, and they care about you, and they're worried about you and Pat. And it says, if you don't send us money, we're going to find your PayPal and force you to. And other people were like that too. Pablo,
we'll kneecap you. We'll go out and kneecap you.
I mean, it was getting to that point. And so then I said, okay, screw it. So I talked to Cardinal Sin. I said, Cardinal Sin, let's merge our efforts. So thanks to the $45 of donors over there. And then we merged our efforts. And so there was anonymous for 75, 50, 30. Nick Weiser kicked in 20. Another anonymous for 100. Nanette Pacelli, $20. Deadman Walking, 55, 40. Jillian Calderon, 10. Brandon Wolf, 20. Randy Schultz, 20, and another anonymous for 100. Elijah Snow, my brother from South Carolina. Thank you, William. The great Douglas Nelson. Purple Valkyrie, thank you, my love. Larry D, which I think is Larry. Another anonymous. Michael Brown, 20. Stephen On, 20. And the great Eric Sullivan from Boston for another 50. And then there are the other donations I just already recognized. In fact, Pablo wanted to donate so bad that he ended up sending it to my PayPal because GoFundMe, he's international. So there was international support. And more importantly than just the donations, or as important, I should say, as the donations, thank you, everyone, for donating. And the total raise was about 900 and something like that. I think 925. All in, I probably spent about 1,200, 1,400, give or take. So so thank you very much to everyone who contributed and helped support this noble effort. To me, it was about helping a family. To me, it was about taking care of Pat. Pat is like me, which is he's like behind the scenes guy. He helps and works with a lot of channels. But like there was so many people that gave advice of encouragement. And I'm going to tell you, just like when my leg was busted up and I was in the hospital and Valhalla cheered me on. And just like Pat has said earlier in the show, when he and his family had something to look forward to that I was going out, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm going to be very open and honest. Like I was going into a hot hurricane zone and I've been in disaster areas before. I can't say I wasn't armed because I might have been legally, by the way, in the South. But, when you're going in a hot zone and I'm carrying 40, I mean, there's other things. I got 50 gallons of gas in the back. If I get rear-ended, I explode. I'm going into a hot zone. I don't want to leave the dog alone. I don't want to leave the car alone. I don't want anyone to see what I got inside the car because I got literally $1,000 worth of supplies and stuff. And so your words of encouragement, your help along the way in terms of routes, checking in on me, whether you're able to donate or not, is there were so many of you that were cheering me on, asking about Pat. And when you're on a purpose, it's very important that you have not only financial support, but also important that you have emotional support. And in the case of like Mark, where you're like giving information that helps me, get in and out of the zone effectively. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to Valhalla. And
I'm going to tell. I want to tell a story real quick before Mike and before we leave, ladies and gentlemen. I want Mike here for this story because he is a part of this. Almost 2 years ago, Mexican Ironman asked me a question. He goes, "What in the hell are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean? What am I doing?" And he said, "I get the channel. I get it. I get the channel. But this community thing you're doing. What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, it's a community for everybody. It's a community. We're here to help each other. We're here to support each other. We are here to back each other up. We stand together." And he goes, "Well, I get what you say on the show, but what is it really about?" And I said, "Mike, that's what it's really about." And he goes, well, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get what you're doing." And it was maybe 3 or 4 months after that I forget what happened. I forget exactly what happened, but something happened. And he called me, he phoned me, and he said, I understand. I get it now. I get what you're doing, and I get why you're doing it. And I said, "Thank you." And he goes, "And you're genuine, and that's something that's very rare. You're not in this to make a shitload of money. You're not in this for yourself. This is for everyone." And I said, "Yeah, that's the whole point of it. That's the point of Valhalla. That's what Valhalla is." Before everybody ditched the community word and started to use fellowship, which is what Ginger Ninja just did. That's what happened after Vegas. We turned into a fellowship. Before that name change, there was Valhalla, and that's what that meant. That's what Valhalla meant, was family, and we're all backing each other up, and we all have each other's backs, and we're all looking out for each other. That is what Valhalla means, and that's what it means to me. And hopefully, that is people have seen that, and that's what it means to you too. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you. That's what Pat was saying to you a minute ago. Thank you. You created this. When I remember that conversation vividly, and I was almost screaming at you. I'm like, "What do you mean you're not doing this for clout?" And you're like, "No." I'm like, "What do you mean you're not doing this for money?" You're like, no. I'm like, "Wait a minute, you're not doing this to like suck up to Jeremy and the other," because I kept hearing all these other big YouTubers talk about you in a positive way. And I'm like, "Why aren't you going on their shows and getting some like clout?" And then he's like, "That's not what I'm here for." And I was like, "I don't get it." And we hung up on it. Like we not hang up, but it was kind of like that. And I came back. I'm like, it just dawned on me. Holy shit. I know what he's doing. I know exactly what Loki's doing. Loki's building a home. Literally a home. And thank God you did, brother, because what I just did with Pat S., that feeling of reaching out is what you did with me. And Lord knows that's what you did. That's what this whole community that you built did with me. When I was down and my leg was crushed and I was depressed, and if I had had means, I might have taken my own soul. That's how down I was, unbelievably. And I was helpless. A guy who's very powerful was made helpless. You were calling me every day. You were there for me. You offered to fly out and be with me. I didn't let you. You wanted to move for me. You wanted to, and that same thing, that Valhalla ethos that you created, is why when I found out Pat was in need, I didn't really give him a chance. I'm saying, "I'm on the way. I'm coming. If you don't send me a list, I'm going to pick random shit that you're not going to like. So you might as well send me what you like and want, because I'm on the way. I'm coming."
Yeah. Going out to see Adega, seeing my friend Adega Outlaw. What Mike's done, what Mike just did for Pat, all of it, I could not be prouder. I could not be prouder for what Valhalla is. Thank you, all of you. It's not just me, guys. I didn't build this place. I didn't build it myself. I moved some. I poured a foundation, and each and every one of you have put a brick in the wall. Each and every one of you has put a brick in Valhalla. So thank you, all of you. Thank you. It's not just me. It's each and every single one of you.
And let me add to that real quick, which is, guys, I'm the guy who was president of the Key Club and joined Kiwanis and Knights of Columbus when I was 18 and ran, the food bank and stuff like that. I'm not used to being on this end of it. It's very humbling, but the thing that you guys probably need to hear the most is that I'm not embarrassed that you guys helped me. I feel humbled, but yet I don't feel like beneath, that I don't know exactly how. It's like my sister helped me out. It's not a big deal. It's not. I don't feel beholden in the way of like now I have to pay this back, but yet I feel beholden that now I have to always pay this forward, and I have to honor what happened here over the last 2 weeks, and which is continuing to happen. And I appreciate it, and I hesitate to throw some names out there, but people who constantly checked in on me, like Purple, yourself, I mean Mike, we've already talked about, but Arwen, people who sent me DMs. I already said about Retro Dicky and how Mark the Infinitely Tired and Mark C with a D, and even Clobbering Times, who was going through his own thing and stuff. And I understand that actually Nick and Coach gave me separate shout outs at 2 different times, and talked about us and said little prayers and stuff and everything and all that. I don't know how to repay that. So all I can do is just honor this. And, I mean this with all sincerity. If you're ever in a situation, you need to reach out. It doesn't mean that, we'll start a GoFundMe for you. Maybe if that's what you need. That's what, but if it's something that I can't help you out with, I do know this, and this is also about being a good teacher too, which is what I was for 20 years. If I don't know the answer, I know where to go find it. So if I don't know how to help you, I can go to Loki, I can go to Ironman, I can go to Purple, and we could figure out how to help you. You need to let us know, and you need to not be embarrassed about it. You need to not wait till the last minute to let people know, because a lot of times you're afraid to ask for it. We need to be aware of it for each other. So I hope that doesn't sound too hokey. I hope I worded that right. I feel like I didn't, but hopefully you guys get what I'm saying. And just thank you. And if I didn't see your name, if I haven't DM'd you back, I've been pretty good about that. I apologize, but it's been crazy here. It's getting better. It's getting better every day. But don't forget about us. It's easy to do, and don't forget about the poor people and other places. Like I didn't know this till this morning, but like this storm killed people in New York. I had no idea. I know that sounds funny to y'all but I've been so focused on local stuff. I didn't even know that things were going on with the storm other places, and I guess I should have, because it was a devastating storm. But I appreciate that, and I want you guys to know that it's there for you too if you need it.
Amen. Amen, brother. Guys, we are going to get out of here. I want to thank Pat S. and I want to thank Pat Mexican Ironman for being here. I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank everyone who donated to the GoFundMe. This would have happened anyway because of Mike. Go ahead.
I'm gonna closing it today, the GoFundMe, and then tomorrow I'm issuing the final financial report, because I only had it up for 1 week, and tonight's midnight. And then so thank you everyone, and I'll just do a final update on Twitter, and then I'm gonna post I kept all the receipts so everybody knows where the money went and stuff. So thank you all.
The fact that the Valhalla stands up for its own, and stands up for other people. This isn't the only, GoFundMe that's ever been run by Mexican Ironman. It's not the only GoFundMe run by me. It's not the only GoFundMe run for people in Valhalla, for people outside of Valhalla. And every single time this community steps up, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what it's for. This community steps up, and I love you guys, and I could not be prouder. We will be back tonight with the Dega Outlaw. Big thank you to Pat S. Big thank you to Mike for coming on this morning. Stephen Glenn, love to all the channel members. Like and share, please. Yes, please. It's one thing, like and share, guys. Thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for being as supportive as you are. And we will catch you guys later tonight with Dr. Adega Outlaw. Be excellent to each other, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. See you all.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.